Hello, and welcome to the Empowerography Podcast. This is a platform created for women's voices to be heard and a place to share their stories, journeys, and successes with the world for the purpose of helping other women who might be on similar journeys. We are empowering women one episode at a time. I'm your host, Brad Walsh, so kick back, grab one of your favorite beverages, and enjoy the stories. If you're looking for jewelry that makes an impact on your self-care routine and your style, Empowerography would love to offer you a discount code to one of our exclusive partners, Quartz & Canary Jewelry and Wellness Company. Please use code EMPOWER15 to receive 15% off upon checkout at www.quartzandcanary.com. Quartz & Canary is truly the place where spirituality meets style. Hello there, Brad Walsh here, your host of the Empowerography Podcast. Today, my guest is Solmaz Khosrowshahian, also known as the Curious Creature. She is a blogger and social media influencer based right here in Toronto. How are you doing today, Solmaz?
I'm great, and the attempt at the last name, you get points for that, Brad.
Woohoo!
Khosrowshahian, which is a mouthful, 14 letters, and it took me many years to learn how to spell it in English letters, at least.
I'm sure. So how are you today?
I'm good. As good as it can be. I heard someone say pandemic fine, and I'm pandemic fine.
All right,
we'll go with that. Happy, and we're good.
I'll have to remember that when next time somebody asks me how I'm doing. Pandemic fine, I guess.
Yeah, it's relative, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So, Solmaz, as I mentioned, you're a blogger, a social media influencer, an entrepreneur, a communications expert, a storyteller, and last but of course, certainly not least, a mother. That's a lot of hats to wear. How on earth do you prioritize and find the time for all of it?
Well, I'd like to say that I do it all perfectly and elegantly, and that would be a lie. as you know, it's very difficult to juggle all those hats, and I don't think anyone executes them all to the best of their abilities because there's just not enough time. And for that, you need, I think, community. I mean, for me at least, I would be nowhere without my community, and by that, it could be my family, friends, online community. I just need that help to do any of that, really. So some of it from a professional standpoint is delegating and getting people to help me with my business. But from a personal standpoint, it's more so the support that I'm getting from my husband, my mom, and my extended family to just move this ship forward. I think it's hard to do it all by yourself. Oh, and I unlearned something, that is the art of perfection, which I spent half my life trying to learn.
There you go.
And just kind of moving as well as we can, when we can, how we can.
Yeah. I mean, motherhood alone is a huge job in itself, and that is probably the toughest job of them all.
Yeah, it's definitely challenging. Every day is different. You have to be on your toes.
For sure. How did you get into blogging? How did that journey start for you?
It's an interesting start because it was very organic. I didn't think about getting into blogging myself. It was a friend of mine who asked me to start a website to basically put all of my travel recommendations, because I traveled a lot. My family's always lived abroad. When I was younger, I was going back and forth between countries, and they thought that what I was doing was pretty cool, and they wanted those recommendations, and they knew that I was long-winded and I needed to provide context and photos, and they just said to me, like, why don't you just put this on a website so you don't have to repeat yourself every time someone asks you for, your recommendation for a trip to Thailand, per se. And I was like, they're onto something, because there's a lot that goes around it. I'm not just that. I like to know who I'm speaking to be able to flesh out some of the questions so I can cater my responses kind of to that person and my recommendations. So a blog provided me an outlet to give a lot more context and to provide photos and other kinds of memories, and almost act as a journal for myself too, to jog my own. So it just started off like that. There was no business intent behind it. There was there's nothing else other than a creative outlet, and also to share these recommendations with my friends and family. And then I started seeing people pop up from all over the world just in the comment sections. And I thought, wow, someone's taking the time to read this. This was back in 2013. I mean, blogging was happening for long before then, but for me, it was very new. It felt like I was just putting out words into the universe, and some people were just, catching them and responding back.
Right. Was writing always a part of who you are? Have you always been into writing and been writing stuff?
Absolutely not.
Really?
I actually hate writing. Isn't that
A
funny?
blogger that hates
Who
writing?
hates writing. Yeah. Because it's never been a part of how I've expressed myself. I've expressed myself in so many other ways, verbally mostly. But I had to learn how to write and kind of stem it from how I speak. And I realized when I started my blog that if I were to write in a grammatically perfected way and in a structured way, that it wasn't going to be very fun for me. I did that for work. So when I worked after I graduated university, I worked in the government of Ontario. I was a speechwriter. I was writing press releases. I was doing a lot of writing in that capacity. And then I also went into the private sector and corporate life of PR and did a lot of that there too. So I had to learn how to write, and that was done. But when I started my own site, I didn't want any of that. I didn't want the rules. You'll get to know me through this interview that I don't really like rules. and grammar is one of those spaces where I acknowledge that the rules exist, but I sometimes acknowledge them and then ignore it.
Well, I guess it's a good thing that you're an entrepreneur, a solo entrepreneur, as opposed to working for someone else then.
Exactly. Yeah. I quickly learned that autonomy was the way to go for me. And I needed to be my own business, basically, and a solo entrepreneur. It's a challenge for me to fit in to institutions. And it was funny because I was always, we all are raised through institutions after school, but then I went to the government, which was very institutionalized.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah. So it was quite a breaking of that.
So you being a social media influencer, was that just a natural progression into becoming a social media influencer?
Yeah, kind of. Like it's started by sharing what I love, and that's really where the blog kind of stemmed from. But when I was working in PR as well, I got to kind of see the other side of the industry, and it kind of all merged into one path at one point, and it became a natural progression. But I've always been a natural sharer. That has always been something. Even when I was a kid, if I found an ice cream shop I loved, like I had to take all the kids to that shop and show them the flavors and like bring joy to them through that and hope that it would resonate. And sometimes it wouldn't, but I was always connecting people to things that I loved, and so it was a natural progression from who I am as a person. It just kind of gave me an outlet to share those passions, and I've been very lucky to have done so far.
Solmaz, spreading the joy.
Spreading the joy from one ice cream at a time. They weren't always healthy, but they were definitely.
When you're a kid, it doesn't matter.
Yeah. I think I sold more Jolts. I don't know if you remember Jolt.
Yeah, Jolt Cola. Yes.
I think if I had commissions on those when I was younger, I would have made a few bucks.
What would you say is your favorite part of your career? What lights you up the most about it?
100% the traveling the world and connecting to people mainly through food. That is always been what has lit me up. And I hope after this pandemic is over, I can get back to that, because I've lost my love. I've lost my wings, and I haven't been able to connect with people. And I think that's really my favorite part. Like I do everything else to be able to feed that part of my work, and to share stories and to connect with people all around the globe has been a true blessing. And I'm so grateful. And I know the amount of privilege that's attached to that. And I recognize it, and I am appreciative of it.
So how has this then been for you personally then, with it affecting how that part of your business, that is obviously part of your business, the travel part of it, and then of course writing about those travels, but how has this been for you personally, dealing with that, the fact that you can't travel? And then the second part is to the question is, what are your thoughts and feelings on these people that are traveling, even though they shouldn't be traveling during this time?
Oh, all kinds of moral and ethics. For me, it turned my life upside down, really, truly. I've been traveling full time for quite a few years, and It's like taking a part of my limb. Like it felt very strange to be grounded physically. I kind of I've always learned to live with what I have, so I don't look at the photos and cry and and get really sad about that loss, because I do know that it's going to come back. I'm hopeful, and I have a science background, so I very much understand viruses and how we're moving forward with this. But it was just it was hard. At first it felt I knew it wasn't going to be temporary, so that was the hard part in my head. On the science side, I knew that it was going to be a longer cycle, and that I had to really hunker down and think about this as a longer term thing. It wasn't just going to be a couple of days, where I think the general public had a lot more optimism and hope and that it would resolve itself much quicker than it did. So it was but telling myself that, it was going to return, and that it will, I've been blessed and fortunate enough to have all the experiences that I have had. Like, people can't squeeze that many travels in their entire lives. I'm very aware of that. So it was more so gratitude for what has happened and hope for what will, but it definitely turned everything upside down. My business has always been twofold. It's part travel, part food. So the food, the consumer side of food really amped up, because what else are we doing during the pandemic other than eating and drinking? Yeah. So I've been doing a lot of corporate campaigns to promote the brands that I love in that space. So that's been really fun. I've made more recipes than I ever thought I could. Actually, right now I was just making a Greek Easter bread in my kitchen. So it was, the kitchen's a mess. It's brought my husband in a very different role, because he's working from home, and he's now become kind of my de facto assistant. So he's been assisting a lot, like it or not, in the kitchen, and with cleanup and all that stuff too. It's a whole team effort there. And the second part of your question, how do I feel about people traveling? Oh gosh, that's a hard one, because I know many of them very personally. And I think morally and ethically, I'm opposed to it. I don't think it's a good idea. It can wait, unless it can't, so if it's for family emergencies and things that are really pressing people to travel, I think you kind of have to do what you have to do there. And I know a lot of people who've traveled for funerals of their parents, for example, or siblings. That's a different pocket. But travel for leisure, currently, I think economically it's important for those countries receiving the tourism, for sure. I've always thought that. And when you look at the depths of both of those topics, they're quite intricate and harder to digest than just at the surface. But I think economically it's important for those countries, but the long-term effects of bringing in a virus that to a place that may not even have it, or have very little in its population, it's a bigger question of ethics, and I don't like it, which is why I don't do it. I think I personally had to shift my business to accommodate that, and I was hoping that others would as well. Some have. I mean, some have even left travel completely and started in other industries. And they had to, because that was they weren't going to get on the flight for their own safety, for the receiving countries, for all the other layers of it. But yeah, it's hard. I get it. And everyone has a different circumstance. Some people have illnesses where they know they have a limited amount of time to do things. Some people are going for family purposes. Some people are, there's so many different reasons to get on those planes. But I've personally chosen not to, since my last trip was ironically, Brad, to the happiest place on earth, which was Walt Disney. Yeah. And that was my last trip last February internationally. So I haven't personally traveled. I've been approached to travel. So what's really interesting about this industry is that every country is in a different place. So you have all these spots who are still looking to bring in that economy. I get it, especially the island economies, like they really are reliant, and food and poverty, and there's so many other issues that are on the table that when there is no tourism, it's really not a good place for those countries. So they're really looking to bring in the tourists, and with that comes influencers and writers and others who are hopefully inspiring travel, which I haven't really been doing for the international side quite yet. But I think we're getting there. We're slowly getting there, but it's going to be intricate complex moving forward too.
Yeah. Do you find it tough to turn these people down that are approaching you still to travel to these countries that are allowing travel in? Do you find it tough personally to say, listen, I would love to, but I just can't? Or is it just that easy to say, you know what, I just can't, period?
No, it's always tough when you know the impact of travel and tourism to those countries, because I'm an empath and I understand the need on one front, but then I also understand the consequence on the other for long term. So it's really just this balance, and I think it's never going to be as a perfect time to do it, but it's going to get better moving forward. And I think. Yeah, it's all these press conferences I've been on and panels and conversations we've had about when is it right and what is, like, how are each of those receiving countries handling it? How is it even being checked? Like, even from a tour operator perspective, let's say it's complicated and not universal, and it's going to be quite a new path. For sure.
You founded The Curious Creature back in 2013. What was the inspiration behind starting that?
I think I just wanted to share what I love and connect people to things that made me happy in hopes that it would do the same for them. And as I said, my friend had suggested this as an avenue of sharing my travel content that I already had, and then hopefully giving tips to people who are going on the same type of trips. And that's really what was the inspiration behind it. And over the years, it's grown and it's become different types of content and contributors. I have people who write for me. And share their voices and their experiences, which is great, because I can't, as I said at the beginning with the juggling of the hats, can't do it all. So, it's nice to be able to be at a place where I can hire writers and photographers and stylists and videographers and all that fun jazz to build, because that's the best part of the community there.
Did you find that it picked up steam and popularity pretty quickly once you started doing it on a regular basis?
Yeah. It was. I feel like it was the perfect time, but I think any time is the perfect time. So I say that with a little grain of salt. It was a time. I think I started in 2013. I kind of let everything be organic and not really on a paid capacity for at least a year, I would say, and then. In 2015, I started seeing a huge push in digital campaigns, lots of money from a PR side, lots of money in digital activations and bringing on influencers and writing a lot, like having presence on blogs and things like that. So it definitely was a good time to start because I kind of feel like I was there at the beginnings of the paid push, meaning that you can actually make it into a business. I mean, it's really lovely to share everything without a financial backing there, but I wasn't able to do that. And I consciously made my website ad free, which is like very everyone has a different business model, but mine has no ads, but it has sponsored posts. So I became reliant on those relationships to run the site, basically. So I only share what I love, but it does have to align there. And there's no ads on the sides, in the middle, of the bottom of the page. So to keep that clear, I had to make some other strategic decisions.
Right. What was your basis behind that decision?
I just personally didn't like reading content and being disturbed. So when I read it and I get distracted. It's almost like I have ADD when I'm on websites. There's all these things popping up and I lose the sentiment behind the story. I don't have the flow. And because it did it to me, I was like, I'm going to try to do it differently. And everyone has a different business model. Like, I do Instagram campaigns and people hate that. But, there's a lot of people who they just do not like to see Instagram ads pop up on their feed. They want to keep it organic. But then when they drive you to their website, that's where the ads are and that's where they're making the revenue. So everyone is different. I don't judge anybody's way. I just, when I designed mine, I thought I want to keep it clutter-free indefinitely and also have more control over the content because I found that when I saw these ads, oftentimes they were popping up in very strange places or strange subjects that weren't really aligned with what was actually being written about. Now they've gotten a lot more sophisticated, but at the beginning I was like, whoa, this is a strange ad to put in. I didn't realize there was people on the other side, doing it. Wasn't the actual publisher who was doing it. It was the ad teams, but yeah, it was strange for me. So that was a conscious decision back then to not go that route.
Now, you've been recognized by publications for your blogging. You were listed as one of the top 10 Toronto lifestyle bloggers and one of the top 5 Toronto food bloggers in 2018. What do these accolades mean to you personally?
I have a very strange perspective on this one, and that is I am grateful, and it's very nice to be seen and recognized. But the feeling is so temporary and fleeting for me. It doesn't really sink in. It doesn't feel, and maybe because I've never really looked to external validation, like it's never really made me feel whole to just have someone else say that was a great job. And I don't know if it's a personality thing. I haven't really dug too deep in that or how it was raised, but it's nice. I'm grateful, but it's not everything. And or anything really to me. Like it's because I also know how these lists come to be, or these accolades and these awards, and it's really oftentimes who you know, how the nomination works, what that person who's writing the piece, like how long they've had to research these and what their input from a media perspective is. So they're often not capturing the best of the best, I would say, in my opinion. But it's also not to be self-deprecating, but it's an opinion. It's an opinion, and it's lovely to be considered and to be recognized, but it's not something that I feel is my fuel and that would really just make me feel like I'm on top of the world. Like I'd rather get that compliment from a close friend or family, and that would mean so much more than, and even when I worked in PR and communications professionally, submissions for these awards, like I know how much work there is in that. And oftentimes people just don't have the time to do it. So it's not that their work isn't of value to be recognized. It's just that they either didn't know it existed or they didn't have time to put together the materials. And oftentimes it's these larger teams that have those resources. So maybe I'm jaded. I don't know.
Well, I wouldn't say that's jaded. You know what the process is. So I guess you I mean, like you said, you appreciate it, but it's not anything of significance to you because you know how the process works. So that makes complete sense, 100%.
So no need for awards for me in the future. Although I do like edible prizes. So like, if I sent a pizza, perhaps maybe it's just where my love language or something. That would mean a pizza would mean so much more. Yeah, no, I have all these awards that I've won throughout the years, even on the professional side. And most people, have a beautiful area in their home where they display it, and mine are literally, I think they're collecting dust in the garage. I don't even know where they are.
In a box in the garage up on the shelf.
But again, grateful,
yes.
And maybe without them, I would want them. I don't know. Maybe that's the case. Maybe I'm just speaking from a very fortunate perspective. But that's my answer to your question.
Right. That's okay. Hey, it's honest. So, do you have a main focus for your blogging? Like, is it lifestyle? Is it travel? Is it food? Or is it just all encompassing, like under the whole hospitality umbrella?
I would say travel and food are the main pillars. They are what I was founded in, like The Curious Creature was founded in, and they are what will continue to propel me forward. I know those are my main pillars. And then sometimes there's some lifestyle. I mean, when you have a child, as you know, like it changes everything. And there's a lot of questions that are being asked of me that would pertain to outside those two realms. But mostly I would say travel and food. On Instagram, it's sometimes there's some lifestyle things that creep up. But yeah, those are the ones that really I'm passionate about and I want to share about. And the rest of the stuff, like you'll never really see me doing like fashion or beauty or anything in that capacity, just because even though I worked in that realm, I used to work in Fashion Week many years ago. I just didn't really feel like writing about it or sharing it or talking about it on a social platform for now, at least. I mean, things change as you move forward, but that's where I'm at right now.
Right. What advice would you give someone wanting to pursue a career as a blogger?
Just start. I think a lot of people think about it too much and get in their own heads and think that, this already's out there, and they're trying to formulate something that's unique. And if you listen to your own voice and your own intuition and your own unique experiences and just start whatever realm you want to, go in, depending on your niche, but just start. Stop thinking too long on these things and just do it, and then learn as you go. And as a lot of entrepreneurs will say the same, like you just need to get those wheels in motion and you'll find your path, you'll find your voice, you'll find all these experiences that enrich you and that you want to share with the world. And you don't really know what that looks like until you start. And if you don't start, then you don't have it.
Yeah.
It just passes. But it's never too late to start either. So you can start when you're like 82 if you want. There's no age gap. I mean, it's really whenever you want to start sharing it.
Did you deal with your own self-limiting beliefs when you first started? Was there a while where you thought, I want to do this, and came up with the excuses like you were just mentioning? Or did you just say, you know what, fuck it, I'm going to just do this? And that's it?
That's exactly what I did. And you know what? Naivete is a blessing. Sometimes when you don't know enough about the industry or where you're going, it's you don't really have those critical thinking questions or thoughts or self-limiting beliefs. Mm-hmm. I didn't know enough about the blogging industry and how many people were in it already when I started. Right. I didn't really research it. Because I was doing it as really a passion project to share my travel itineraries with my friends. It was not meant as a business. So I wasn't looking at it from a strategic point of view of, where is there a gap in the industry? How am I going to fill that niche? Yeah. There was none of that. And to this day, I still, try to go with what I'm passionate about, but there isn't this, thought process of, is this unique enough? Has someone done this before? Is this going to, really, I just do it. Yeah. It's because I also believe that everything exists in duplicates and nothing's an original. So if you look deep enough, you'll find from music to art to social media to whatever, there's always going to be overlap. It's what makes us unique is us. And there is no other Solmaz that's there's another name, but not another person that's like me. And no one will be able to express themselves like me. And that was really what helped me always come through and share my own voice, is that I just every time, even if that thought creeps in, because a lot of people talk about that about self-limiting beliefs, then I just kind of say thank you for coming, and you can go now this thought, because I'm me and no one can be me. And hopefully, that fosters a good energy around me to build a community that likes me for me. And there's enough people on the planet to find a community for everybody, I think.
That's amazing, because so many people struggle with it, and that self-limiting belief can be so crippling. I mean, I've struggled with it. I know I have, but getting to that mindset where it's no, and that is exactly it, is there is no other me. No one else shoots the way I do. No one else takes a photograph the way I do. No one else has my eye or sees things the way I do. So it's just getting into that headspace and removing that, or getting the fuck out of your own way. That is the hard part for a lot of people. So many people struggle with it, and it prevents them from doing what they want to do in life. And they end up staying in jobs that they absolutely hate and can't stand being there. It's a horrible, horrible place to be, for sure.
It is. And, I'd like to say, because people have asked me how I got this almost confidence in that thought. And I've dug deep thinking maybe it was my parents. My parents are immigrants. They've always liked structured life, and they brought me here to thrive, through education, and then through my profession, and then all that went down. I was like, thanks for all of this. I'm not going to pursue.
I'm not using any of it, but
yeah. Well, I mean, I'm using all of it. I would say that, because the science background taught me certain things, and the government background taught me other things, and they all kind of just fed into who I am now. But it wasn't actually really taught. My mom unconditionally has always loved me and said, I can succeed at whatever I want.
Right.
But at the same time saying stick to your lane, and having self-limiting beliefs for sure, and imposing those. I think it was my best friend, really, who was a rebel at heart, from grade 6 onwards. She was just always telling me to not listen to the exterior voices and just do me. And she was very strong in that position. And that one friendship, I think, is really the root of how I've been able to look at everything moving forward, and really just trying to not limit myself, and to just put it out there, and then let the universe decide, where it's going to go, instead of just thinking about it and tweaking it and thinking it's not good enough, and just holding myself back. And I hope that everyone's able to get to that place at one point, and really just come into themselves, because it's such a beautiful place to be. Yeah. And it's such a comfortable and everything feels natural. It doesn't feel forced. It doesn't feel confined. It doesn't feel restricted, and you can just be. And like, that is the best.
It's so freeing.
Yeah, it is. It is literally like a free fall. Like, it's a beautiful feeling. Like, you have wings and you can just do whatever you want. And it's not all, it's not all positive experience, of course. Like, I'm not delusional. There's a lot of challenges and things that come up, but you do you, and you're 100% true to you. And that's a really great place to be. Yeah.
More people need a friend like yours.
I know, right? Little did I know.
Yeah. But you're right, though. I mean, I think that with entrepreneurship, it gets romanticized and fantasized, and it just gets put up on this huge pedestal that's the greatest thing ever. And it is great. Don't get me wrong. It is an amazing thing. I wouldn't trade it for the world, but there are downsides to it too that I feel personally that don't get talked about enough.
Oh my gosh.
Those discussions need to happen more often. Right?
Yeah, you can't. And it's the same with everything that's been romanticized, to be honest, Brad. I was talking to somebody about, like, how you see lawyers in Law and Order, or how you see a chef on Top Chef. And like, we're seeing these final products, and oftentimes you're not seeing the stories and struggles behind it. Or even if it exists, it's not like people aren't sharing them. You're not really in tune. Like, you're just listening and looking for that final result. And, if that's what you're seeing and not the struggle, it's romanticized, and it's not a reflection of what you're getting yourself into. And then people get into those fields and think, whoa, this isn't what I was expecting at all. Like, there's so much more to this. And it's not all fun and games. And a lot of it is like, most of my days spent looking at contracts and reviewing legal terms and like invoicing and doing admin stuff and things that people, wouldn't necessarily get into this space for, but it's got to be done. And if it's a solo entrepreneur situation, you do it yourself, and everything else, it's a lot.
It's a huge roller coaster ride, and that's exactly what it is. But I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world.
No, neither would I. Once you've tasted the freedom, I feel like it's very hard to go back. I considered it, and I get because I work as like in a contract base or freelance base sometimes with tourism boards or with brands. Like, they'll ask me to come on and work as a full-time employee, and it's so, the money sometimes is very tempting, but then that brain kicks in. It's like, no, like, you like the autonomy. This is not where you're gonna have these a little bit of a confined, institutionalized approach if you do that, and I didn't like that part, so I always tell myself to
bring yourself back,
graciously decline. Thank you, but no thank you.
I appreciate the offer, but I'm gonna have to pass. So how long after you started blogging did you realize, hey, I can actually do this for a living and make money at it? How long did that step take for you?
I feel like it was about a year or so. Yeah, I would say between like 2013, 14, the PR, like when I was working in PR and freelance, I started seeing influencers brought into the fold. So they were being invited to events. They were being asked to do campaigns, and they were just starting to have a lot more prominence in the media realm. So yeah, I think it was around then. And I was like, oh, wait a minute. This thing that I'm doing as a passion project can actually become a business, and I could be one of them. And that is my favorite part, is to share my experiences. So why would I be tied to working for like just one brand or one company, whereas I can do this for everything that I love and I'm passionate about, and be my own business in doing so.
Do you remember what your first paying gig was as a blogger, and who it was for, and what the topic was that you wrote about?
Oh gosh. Okay, so the first couple of years, organic content, lots of travel focused, no paying at all was involved, because I was also working as a freelancer, so it was really not my source of income. So that was just organic. I think my first press trip, which was also unpaid, was to Miami, and it was with my dream brand for travel, and that was the Four Seasons, and it really kicked off my Four Seasons relationship for years to come after, and continues. So that was my first press trip, but my first paid one, I feel like, was for Corona beer. I don't want to say the word Corona now. But yeah, it was for an off the grid campaign, which ironically encouraged me to put down my phone, even though it was a social media campaign, for an extended period. I think it was like a weekend or something like that. And it was in 2015. So that was one of my first paid, I think it was with Anheuser-Busch. And it was a big deal. Because it was my first one, I think. Yeah, that's the first one that comes to mind. I don't think there was anything before that, but I think 2015 was really the year that for me and for many other digital content creators, the paid collaborations started to be in basically getting some funding from the digital marketing side, and they started to kick off. And yeah, so that was kind of the beginnings of where we're at now.
Okay. What would your dream gig or blog or article for you to write for? Which publication or which brand would be your dream gig?
Well, an entrepreneur I am, so I would say I would love to have, I've been asked a few times this week actually about creating my own podcast or creating my own show, which neither of the ideas resonated because they were very specific in topic, but the one I would like to do would be, I have an Eating with a Local series where I travel and I meet random locals who I've never had any contact with around the world. And then I put my stomach in their hands and we eat together. And so much comes out of that conversation about everything from politics to family dynamics to food culture, everything you can think of. And I would love to have a show on whichever platform would host it that really is back to that human interaction once, safely we're able to do so. But really just sitting at a table with someone who's completely foreign and having a meal and having that meal introduce you to their life and their culture and their themselves. Yes.
That would be very cool.
That would be very cool. Yeah. Hopefully one day.
I'm sure you'll get there one day. When we can get back to traveling safely.
Right? Yeah, eating with a local is like a hard one because you're actually sitting with the locals. Yeah. It's not a just eating like a local or eating, it's really with the person. So hopefully once everyone is safe, I can do more of those because those are super fun and random and unplanned and spontaneous.
Yeah. Which makes for the best content, right? Spontaneous and just roll with it.
The best. Sometimes dangerous, but usually amazing.
Yeah, sometimes I could see that. Yeah.
Where are we going? That looks pretty dark. Yeah.
Are you sure about this? This doesn't.
But it's always a hole in the walls that are the best.
Yeah, very true. Very true. What are some of the challenges you faced early on in your career as a blogger, and how did you overcome them?
Well, at the beginning, no one really wanted bloggers at the table, and I would say. Even so now, sometimes I feel, especially from a traditional media standpoint, it felt like we were invading in a way. And I've always said there's a place for all types of media. Like you need that. It would be a very unhealthy media environment if it was just dominated by bloggers, influencers, or just dominated by traditional. Like I think it needs to be a little bit of both. So, but at the beginning, it was not fun in that sense because you really felt like an outsider and like that look of like, why is she here? especially on press trips. So when I started doing press trips, and I think it was 2014, 15, it was almost annoying, I think, for the people to see me I wasn't taking photos myself, but to even even if I asked to step off the bus to take a photo of something or to experience something, because a lot of the writers that were with me and a lot of the public doesn't necessarily have a grasp too much of how this works, but like if they're doing a top 10 of top 10 beaches in Bermuda, oftentimes they haven't even been to Bermuda. They're just doing research and they're doing diligent research.
Really?
At doing what? Yes. So like oftentimes you read these articles and it's not a person who's actually been there. It's something that's a roundup, of very diligent research, or maybe they've been to a couple of them and not like one of them. But as a blogger and influencer, I felt like that was all I needed to do was to experience it. I had to experience it because people looked to me for that feedback. Like, how was it? How did you feel? And a lot of times on these trips, I found that the traditional writers were very happy and content to sit on the bus and hear, information about it. So like we are driving past an adventure park and they would just, they would tell them the facts, like how many rides there are, or how long it's been around, or how big it is, or things like that. And they were perfectly content taking notes. And I was like, can I get off the bus and try a ride? Because like I can't like create content. I can't write about this because
that's an authentic experience the way you do it. I would think.
Yeah, and it's not all writers. Some writers are not like I mean, it's not to categorize anyone, and no one's a monolith. But like the writers that I had experienced with on my first few press trips, I was like, oh, this is very interesting. So like, do you not need to experience it? Oh no, I've already done, like let's say Sunset Cruise or something like that. And it's like, well, but not in this specific place. This is
that's exactly it.
It was strange to me. It was strange to me, and it was consistent on I would say the first like 7 or 8 press trips at least, where I felt very much like an outsider every time I asked to try things. And whether it be food or experiences or whatever, it was strange. It was definitely a challenge. And then that's changed too, though. Like I find that over the years, the people on these tours too, like oftentimes they were tour operators and not just traditional media. So now they have individualized trips for each category, and it goes as it needs to. And I think maybe because they were mixing us all up into one big trip, there was some conflicting interests. But yeah, it's a challenge. And even now, like when I'm on Clubhouse, people will say like sometimes, when they show up at events and things like that, they just feel still like they're not accepted by the community. But it's kind of the next wave, I think, and we have to learn how to coexist. And I always think there's so much value in traditional media, and they do such different work than I do. It's completely different and necessary and critical in terms of their thinking, their research, and I think that we need to have both.
Crazy! Wow, I had no idea.
Well, there you go.
I learned something today.
Well, from my experience, everyone's different, but those were my press trips. They were very very challenging and very strange.
To date, what would you say is your biggest high or your greatest win?
Well, personally, my family, because, I have a little one. He's 4 years old, and that just changes life completely, and it's the most fulfilling thing. But professionally, I would say I have a continuous partnership with Tourism Toronto, and it's to promote my beautiful city. And as much as I travel everywhere, every time I go somewhere else, I really, really come back with so much more love for this city and appreciation for the city. So when I pitched it to them back in, I think it was 2015 or 16, they were trusting of me and allowed me to share my lens, unedited, unfiltered, through their Instagram, through their blogs, their website. And that partnership has been very, very fulfilling to me, because it's my home. I love it here. I love sharing all of my experiences and helping others kind of see the little gems around the city, whether it's food or places to go. And yeah, that's been really, I think, my favorite partnership to date, and continues to be.
What do you think your unique skill set or superpower is that's helped you become successful?
I ask a lot of questions. I'm basically a toddler that never grew up. Why is usually the biggest one, the biggest question. Asking a lot of questions and not being afraid, and regardless of status. So I've worked across industries where I've worked, with interns at Fashion Week, to working at the Toronto International Film Festival with like A-list celebrities. And for me, it doesn't matter where you are on the spectrum. Like if I just find human conversation interesting and questions interesting. And I think that that's really helped, because when you ask questions, you share your story, and then people resonate, and then you just kind of grow together, and leading to a large network. I think without my network, I would be nowhere. So just by having conversations with people, I've been able to grow this network, and that's kind of my superpower, is that connection, I guess, with people.
Yeah, community is definitely key. You can't lose with community.
Yeah, it's everything. And it's so beautiful. Like the growth with community is so beautiful. Yeah. And it's so funny that it's like from that, like that individualistic look at life, and when you expand it and you grow together, like I can bring on a photographer, I can bring on a writer, and we can go together on these things, and this journey and grow, it's so amazing. And it's really the key to exponential growth, to be honest, because without that you can't really grow that fast as a single person.
Everybody wins with community. You cannot lose.
100%. I totally believe it. I've always believed it. And I always found people who didn't believe it to be very strange creatures.
For sure. So speaking of success, how do you define success? What does that word mean to you, Solmaz?
Well, I know money and status don't play in. Autonomy does. But mainly, I think feeling aligned and fulfilled with my own core values and beliefs. Like I feel like once that's aligned, I'm happy and I feel successful and I don't really need to reach for more. It is difficult to maintain a balance of that, of course.
Right.
So that's kind of the driving force. But yeah, I don't define it in a traditional sense. I never thought, the institutionalized, again, maybe leading back to the accolades and awards, like none of that really helped define the success. It was more so about these healthy relationships with myself, with the people around me, and just feeling really aligned and not pulled away from who I am.
Authenticity. Beautiful.
Yeah, that's the word.
Yeah, that's it. So, Laz, what would you say is one of the best pieces of advice you've ever received?
The one I've been repeating over and over again this year is, and I don't know who it came from. This is the best part. Maybe we can find the source. You can do anything, but you can't do everything.
Yes.
Once I let that sink in, I was like, yes, it's so true. We can do anything. Yeah. It's truly possible, but it's when you try to do everything where it all goes to, you really can't. And in a society where, again, the final product's always shown to us and we see this perfect outcome at the very end of, all these years of trials and tribulations, it can become very tempting to cherry pick and to put this beautiful life together that no one has ever had. Like, my athletic friend to my home decor friend to my foodie, the world traveler, the family of five, you cannot have all of that at once. It just cannot coexist. So I think that you can do anything, but not everything really resonates and helps ground me and think, I can't stretch myself to those limits. I will break. Yeah. So I think that one's good, but I don't know where it came from. Maybe even a Clubhouse chat. I'm not sure, but I tried Googling the quote and there's half of the quotes are there, but not the whole thing. But my mom did always say the beginning part that you can do anything, but she failed to mention the
rest of it. You can't do everything. So that's very sage advice for sure. What was a turning point in your life and how did it affect you?
Well, I've had a few, but I would say the biggest one would be when I dropped out of my master's degree in just a few short days. So I had graduated U of T. I was going into pre-med. I got accepted to pre-med at McMaster. I walked in. I was ready to start that. Mm-hmm. And it was the first time in my life that my gut was like, no. This is not your path. Like, this is not for you. And it was nothing specific. I hadn't even had a test yet or anything like that. It did not sit right. And I knew that it wasn't for me and I needed to get out, and I needed to get out now. It was almost like an emergency. I just needed to not be doing this. And I couldn't really put my finger on what it was, but it was the first time my intuition was very, very strong. So I left. And for the first time in my life, I left without a plan. I had no plan. All my life planned, strategic, organized, the way my father and mother, trained me to be, especially from an immigrant perspective. You came here to succeed, and here we are. And I knew I was going to be successful, and I didn't want that to be the only reason why I wanted to do it. Mm-hmm. I graduated with high honors at U of T, and I knew I could master the science and do well, but I just couldn't see myself moving forward in this career path. So I left. And I had no plan. And I sat at my parents' house, being very miserable and sad about my life and how I didn't know what was next. And then one of my friends actually sent me a link to an internship at the Ontario government. And it was in a field I knew nothing about, communications. And I applied. And I went in and I talked and I did many, many exams and tests and things. They had 5 levels of entry for those internships because they were paid. And I got in. And I got in and I thought, what is this? What am I doing? I know nothing about this. I mean, other than what I'd researched online, but it seemed like everything that I loved to do was kind of in there in the realm of communications. I just had never heard of communications as a profession. So, it was an interesting time, but it was really what led me to where I am today. That decision is, taught me everything I need to know in communications. After becoming an intern, I worked full time for 7 or 8 years there. And then I went to the private sector, worked there for a few years, and really built the skill of mainly media relations, issues management, crisis communications. I was at all these big ministries when big crises were happening. And I was able to learn a lot. And I had incredible leaders, mainly, except for one. And they taught me so much, and they gave me so much of their wisdom and knowledge that carried me forward. And that's kind of where that came from. Like everything that I am today is because of that experience, really. But it was a big turning point. That dropout was soul crushing, because it was like, at the time, as we know, like, our problems with time seem insurmountable. It was like the end of everything. Yeah. No plan. Yeah. And it was really like, in my family just fell, and my parents were very supportive. Like, they knew that whatever it was really internal struggle for me, that I would never do something like this. It was very out of character for someone who's very planned and methodical, but it just didn't feel right. And then later on, years later, I realized why I had so much fear into going in that realm. And it was a psychological one. It was really because I'm such an empath. And I started understanding, as I was volunteering in hospitals and working, that it just wasn't a space I could thrive in, because I literally, every single person I emotionally connected to it in such a deep level that if anything ever happened, and, as in a hospital setting, things happen. And I couldn't see myself crying myself to bed every night, basically. And the strength that our medical community has mentally to be able to deal with anything, let alone this pandemic, is always been so awe-inspiring to me. Like, they are like, to me, magic. Like, I don't know how they're able to do that. And my mom was a nurse, so like I definitely saw that altruism and it wasn't for me. But I didn't realize at the time that was the struggle. Like, I really had to dig deep to be like, what is this? Like, it's not a science thing. It's something else. It's deeper. But it was really because I knew that emotionally I could not handle it. It was not the path for me. I couldn't take it. I couldn't take it on. And I praise and value and appreciate anyone who can, because it's a tough career.
Absolutely. What makes you feel inspired or like your best self?
People, generally people. People are my biggest inspiration, which is why I would like to travel the world, meeting more people. The stories they share just resonate, and they're basically my fuel. With different ideas and perspectives and thoughts and languages and music and everything. It's what really propels me forward. And they make me challenge my own views and perspectives, which is refreshing. I don't like people who agree with me as much as I like people who challenge me. Right. I think I learn best that way. And nature too. People and nature, because I find nature to be very inspiring, just humbling, and just gives me a different perspective that I wouldn't have if I didn't go to the outdoors.
So much out there that is much larger than us. That's
exactly. Yeah, lots of existential reflections, lakeside or oceanside or cliffside.
Sure. Who would you say have been the 3 most influential people in your life?
Definitely my mom. My best friend, the one who made me have my rebellious thoughts. And I think, my husband for sure, but I would say my grade 2 teacher, I think that's when we immigrated to Canada. Mrs. Muir, I'll never forget her. I hope she's still around and doing her thing, because she really made me feel welcome and not like an outsider and like I could do anything. And for a young girl to have that at such I think a crucial stage, like impressionable, and also like, I was integrating into a new society. I was learning how to read and write in a different language. I was learning the cultural differences. My parents were working full time as immigrants in a restaurant, which was not their careers at all before. They all of this change, but I had this lovely lady who was like a beam of light. Like, she was great. She was just really helped me believe that I can. And I think that's what teachers are unbelievable at doing. Like,
Yes.
really, truly undervalued profession, and such an important role they play.
For sure. What does the word empowerment mean to you?
To be able to live in your own truth, I think, and share your voice and your thoughts without modification for sake of others in society. Like, to just be yourself. I think there's a strength in that, the good and bad. I think I see it as like an inner feeling of strength, and it kind of like just shines through. Based mainly, like, if you think of it as a tree, I guess, like the roots are strongly rooted in love, and it kind of is based in that, and it just shines through the branches. And yeah, I see it visually. It's interesting when I hear the word empowerment. I see like this really strong tree, and it's really standing in its own, but deeply rooted. You need that. It's not just on its own, but you see the surface, but there's so much more underneath.
Beneath. Yeah.
Yeah. But I think, it's standing in your own truth, really, and just letting it all out, letting it shine.
What would you say is one of the most important things you've learned in your life? And what was your life like before learning it? And what was your life like after learning it?
I learned very young about mortality. I would say time is a gift. Mm-hmm. That's something that I learned when I was being raised during a war. I think a lot of people have been through similar things have a lot of gratitude for time. Mm-hmm. And it's hard to explain, but it's definitely the most important thing is that it's a gift, and every day is a gift, and tomorrow is never guaranteed. And that's why I always try to live in the present and not really reflect too much on the past or think too much about the future, because it's really the only thing we have. And also that we're just a speck in the universe. And even though everything can seem mammoth, it's so small. It's so small. So I think those two I learned quite early on in life, and I didn't know why I learned it, but then, in future years, I put two and two together.
Well, tomorrow's never promised to any of us, and time is definitely the most valuable commodity.
Absolutely.
Once it's gone, it's gone.
Absolutely.
Okay, we're going to do a little rapid fire section here. So
let's do it.
To the next 10 or so questions. Money or fame?
Neither.
Okay.
Can I say neither? Happiness? Okay, if I had to choose between money or fame, I would say money, because fame destroys all.
Okay. Early bird or night owl?
Early bird.
How would you describe yourself in one word?
Curious. Truly. That's why the name.
Yeah. If you were writing your autobiography, what would the title be?
Also related. Curiosity didn't kill this cat.
I love it.
I have to think about these things. I could come up with a better title if I had more time.
That's the whole point of a rapid fire section. What's the first thing you do when you wake up?
It's changed because of the pandemic, but during the pandemic, I'm very lucky to have a husband that gets my child ready for school and takes him to school. So I actually have breakfast and coffee and watch the news.
All right.
How civilized. The rest of the day is not so civilized, but that one little portion of the day is very civilized.
Yes. If you came with a warning label, what would yours say?
Caution, will question everything.
If you could change one thing about the world, what would you change?
More empathy and compassion for each other. I think too often we focus on differences, and we are so similar. It's
that's
mind-boggling.
I have to say, I had the experience of doing a job shadow with a friend of mine that works at the coroner's office. They were looking for a photographer for the coroner's office. And so I spent the day there, and I got to witness an autopsy from start to finish, all the way through. And the biggest takeaway from that whole day was exactly that. We are all the same. It doesn't matter what race, what religion, what color our skin is, we all end up in the same bloody place. I can't wrap my head around why we have to fight all the time, why there's so much strife and bullshit in the world when it's so easy to be kind to one another.
Yeah, greed. That's the answer.
And it's horrible
Greed,
because we all end up the exact same way. No matter who you are, you're going to end up in the same place, the same way as everybody else in the world.
Yeah.
It was the most incredible experience of my life. I will never, ever forget it.
Unpredictable, but so it's crazy where you learn those nuggets. It's perspective.
Yeah,
sure.
Absolutely. If you had a theme song that played every time you walked into a room, what song would that be?
My friends would probably say something very energetic. I like house music with a beat, but I would say probably Edith Piaf's Non, je ne regrette rien. No regrets. No regrets.
What's one thing you want but cannot buy with money?
Love and happiness. Both.
Entrepreneur life is?
Harder than you think. Unpredictable, rewarding, but harder than you think.
Yeah. My favorite way to unwind is?
Spas. I'm a spa addict. It is the only time I put down my phone completely and just surrender. Yes, spas.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mom life is?
Almost like entrepreneurship. Rewarding, frustrating, beautiful, ugly, a roller coaster of learnings, tears, happiness.
Yeah. The last book or podcast I listened to or read was?
Oh my gosh, does Dinosaurs 101 count? Like 101 dinosaurs?
Hey,
I have a toddler. Yeah, I know all the dinosaurs to their full extent. I think Life of Pi was my last one that I read, actually.
That was a very good book, actually.
Very good. One you can read over and over again, and it makes sense.
I liked it better than the movie. I saw the movie as well, but the book...
Same here.
Much better, which is usually the case.
Usually the case. What
is your personal motto?
I don't have one, but now I think I should have one. I'm going to have to think about it. I don't have a personal motto. Okay. Never thought about it.
What is the one common myth about your profession that you want to debunk?
That influencers and bloggers just get paid to exist and to frolic around and be themselves. And I think, we're all entrepreneurs. We're content creators, photographers, writers, editors, researchers, stylists, analysts, legal, like everything under the sun, just as any other profession would be. That's entrepreneurial. I think it's a misunderstood industry, but there's a lot that goes into it behind the scenes.
Yeah. If you could go back and give your younger self one piece of advice, what would that piece of advice be?
Be nicer to your parents. I was an awful child. I was awful. My teenage years were horrific. Like, they worked full time in a restaurant. They were never really there because they were, trying to feed us. But I was a rebellious teen. I was one that understood how to emotionally manipulate them. Just was not a good child. Like, between my teens, I would say. Once I got into university, it was great. I have been great since. But I needed to be nicer to my parents.
You were a hell child.
I was not good. Yeah. Between I would say grade 6 or grade 7. Yeah. And university was a tough ride. And I wish I was nicer, because I know now how hard it is to be a parent and how much they sacrificed just even moving here and giving up everything that they had. And I don't know why I just couldn't see that as a teenager, but now I see it, and thankfully they're still around, so I can pay my gratitude. Gratitude now. It's not too late.
Yeah, exactly. Sometimes that's what it takes, or is for you to experience it yourself.
Yeah,
which exactly. I'm guessing is a big part of your realization, is becoming a mother.
Yeah, huge. And also university. When I left them and lived on my own, that was the first time I realized, wow, yeah. they've done a lot.
This is tough. I don't have them around to help me. They're not there as much to lean on, right?
Exactly.
Lastly, Solmaz, if you were to deliver your last 30-second speech to the world, what would that last 30 seconds sound like?
Oh my gosh, 30 seconds.
It doesn't have to be exactly 30 seconds. Don't worry.
Just last speech to the world is pretty deep. I mean, I'm grateful for it all, the good and the bad. happy I lived in the now and realized that at an early age that tomorrow is never guaranteed. Feel good knowing I lived my life according to my terms and resisted the urge to fit in, which was the hardest part, and stood up for what I believed in. I treated people like I wanted to be treated. I think that's really important. And I loved and lived with intent.
There you go. Awesome. Solmaz, thank you so much for being here, being a guest today, and sharing your journey and your story with us here today and being part of the Empowerography community. It's been an absolute pleasure chatting with you. Lots of laughs, lots of insights. I've learned a lot today. And I just
thank you so much for having me.
It is my absolute pleasure and honor. I so appreciate you being here and sharing and being part of the community. It's wonderful to have you as a member of the Empowerography community.
Well, you're doing incredible work in fostering that community and bringing everyone together to share their stories. So I because of my answers, that how much I appreciate community. So that's why I wanted to be involved in this. And thank you so much for taking the time to ask me all these questions, things I haven't even thought about. So I'm going to go back and think about my personal motto. And
good. You'll have to tell me what it is when you figure it out.
Right. And come up with a better autobiography and a better walkout song.
I like the title. The title works. I like the title you came up with. That was good. Once again, my name is Brad Walsh, host of your Empowerography podcast. Today, my guest has been Solmaz Khosrowshahian.
Khosrowshahian, you got it.
Did I get it? All right. Thank you so very much for being here today. Again, it's been an absolute pleasure. I hope you have an amazing rest of the day, Solmaz, and we'll talk soon.
Thank you so much, Brad.
Care. Thank you very much for listening to this podcast. If you haven't yet, please be sure to subscribe, rate, review, and share with all your friends. You can find me at viseuphoria.ca and follow me on Instagram at Empowerography Podcast and on Facebook at Empowerography. Please join me next time for another inspirational story from yet another amazing woman.